Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. 125 gets you there. You do that 3 times and then get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at vinsori@gmail.com and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go on the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Yes, and a child shall lead them. By how much? This is the song This Land by the big homie Gary Clark Jr.
Overshadow Sean.
Shout out to the big homie Overshadow Shizon. Having said that, it is time, ladies and gentlemen, to watch This Land. Here we are.
Pissed off. Now that I got the money, 50 acres and a Model A, right in the middle of Trump country. I told you there goes a neighborhood. Now Mr. Williams ain't so funny. I see you looking out your window. Can't wait to call the police on me. Then I know you think I'm up to something. I'm just eating, I was still hungry. And this is mine, not legit. I ain't leaving and you can't take it from me. I remember when you used to tell me, nigga run, go back where you come from. Nigga run, go back where you come from. We don't want your kind. We think you's a dumb bomb. Fuck you, I'm America's son. This is where I come from. This land is mine. This land is mine. This land is mine. This land is mine. Up till the sun comes up. No, I can't stop grinding. And I can't let them break me. No, I can't let them find me. You can meet my friend the governor, only if you wanna try me. Or you can meet my other friend the judge, just in case you think I'm lying. Then I know you think I'm up to something. I'm just eating, I was still hungry. And this is mine, now legit. I ain't leaving and you can't take it from me. I remember when you used to tell me, nigga run, go back where you come from. Nigga run, go back where you come from. We don't want your kind. We think you's a dumb bomb. Fuck you, I'm America's son. This is where I come from. This land is mine, yeah. This land is mine. This land is mine, yeah. This
Okay. What were your thoughts on the song?
Well, I thought it was going to be... Oh.
No, just keep going.
It's still going to go?
Well...
Will it record it?
It's being recorded on our side.
Okay.
We just got hit because the copyright.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was a little bit tough because, you know, as far as the lyrics go, I didn't have them up right away, and I didn't bring them up because I thought it was going to be this land is your land, this land is my land.
Yeah.
And so when it wasn't, I was like, oh, shoot. And so I was like trying to pull up the lyrics, but then like I was missing the visuals, which I didn't want to miss. So it kind of put me in this weird, funny place. Then I was just watching The Kid, and it kind of was reminding me a little bit about Get Out.
Yes, yeah.
So, yeah, it was pretty crazy. And then, like, obviously... So it kind of sounds like that they moved into a neighborhood, but I'm not sure if this is, like, after they got, like, free from the plantation, but they still weren't technically free because of how, you know, people still felt about them, or if this is talking about just, you know, black people everywhere and how the certain mentality that white people have about them. And so, you know, even if you have paranoid and pissed off, now that I got the money, 50 acres and a Model A right in the middle of Trump County. Country. I told you there goes a neighborhood. Now Mr. Williams ain't so funny. I see you looking out your window. Can't wait to call the police on him. Right. So that to me sounds like it's like now he's got what he's, you know, he's worked for what he has, but like the white people still have like this eye like, okay, I can't wait to like for him to do anything that I can call the cops on him for.
Well, Gary Clark is from Austin, Texas.
Okay.
It's interesting. He says he's paranoid and pissed off, which usually when people talk about paranoia, it is fear in something that's not necessarily real.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But
yeah.
Usually most people, unless you have a diagnosable condition, most people are paranoid for a specific reason. So like, for example, when I was in the hood and I talk about hypervigilance, there's a reason I was hypervigilant. Mm-hmm. It's because I saw a guy get his face sliced open right in front of me.
Right.
And he wasn't vigilant, and so he got his face sliced open. Mm-hmm. So, was I paranoid? Yes. Was I on edge? Yes. But there was a reason for it, right? Like, that would not be a diagnosable condition after seeing that. That's a reaction to trauma.
Right.
Which you'd probably say that trauma is diagnosable, but not the reaction to it necessarily. He talks about 50 acres in a Model A, which is obviously 40 acres in a mule, right? After slavery, and we were supposed to get 40 acres in a mule. So, because there was the understanding that if you've enslaved a bunch of people, just liberating them is liberating them into squalor. There has to be some sort of repair. Mm-hmm. And obviously, we did not get 40 acres in a mule. Our reparations went to Southern slaveholders who had to be recompensated because of the loss of their slave labor during Reconstruction. So what he's talking about is he made himself successful, and now he's got 50 acres and a Model A, which is a car, you know, not a mule, obviously.
Yeah.
I told you, there goes the neighborhood, which is how black people still feel to this day when they start getting some affluence and then moving into a white neighborhood. I mean, we did this. We were looking for houses, and if we saw a bunch of Trump flags and unfortunately American flags, we were like, eh. Mm-hmm. But if we saw Biden flags and rainbow flags, we're like, okay, this community will accept it. And we're not really worried about me and you.
No.
But we're worried about the kids.
Right.
And so and every black person with means that I've ever talked to has the same mentality to this day. So he's coming to some money, it looks like, and now Mr. Williams ain't so funny. I see you looking out your window. Can't wait to call the police on me.
Yeah.
And you know,
it was that, and then like, remember that time you were showing me where you used to live when you grew up, and like this big truck drives up, and he like, what are you guys doing around here?
Oh, yeah.
Like that. Like he was the cop of the place.
He was.
And I was
he
like,
wasn't a cop. He was like,
no, he was
I'm just making sure the neighborhood's okay, and you look suspicious.
Yeah, and I was like, I was so offended because I had never seen anything like that, and I've, mostly been around white people, and we've done stuff like that all the time. You go and you park in a neighborhood and have a conversation, or drive around in some cute little neighborhood, or go, whatever. He was just showing me where he used to live, and my father used to do that. He'd bring us to old neighborhoods and be like, oh, this is where I did this is where I did that, and it was all us white faces in the car. And then when he's in there, now all of a sudden, like, somebody's driving by real slow. Now all of a sudden here, like, a truck pulls up, and he's like looking at, like, it literally looked like one of those movies that you see where he's like he didn't have that voice, but like that's all the voice that I could hear. Like,
what are you niggers
what are you all doing here? Like, you don't belong in our parts.
Yeah.
Like, it was like so weird. Like, I was so angry because I knew exactly what was going on, and it was so infuriating.
Yeah, I was like, we played ping pong a little bit, and I was like, man, go mind your business, bro. But yeah, it's one of those things, man, where I know you think I'm up to something. I'm just eating. Now we're still hungry. This guy's use of the words is brilliant. I know you think we're up to something. It's what happens when you're out there and they keep looking at you over and over and over again, or you're at the 7-Eleven, the guy keeps following you around. What's up? Blah, blah, blah. While your white friend is actually the one stealing shit.
That's a good idea.
You can use this to your advantage, brother.
Don't tell people that.
You don't think people know?
No,
Niggas
that's
know?
a good idea, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is a very, very, very good idea. Mm-hmm. So you see the Trump flags that assume racism, then see the Biden flags that assume no racism. Interesting. No, really what it is I've said that Biden is a proto-racist millions of times. But the issue is, like we said in the previous conversation, all you know is what you have to go by. And all you have are probabilities. Mm-hmm. So which group of people are more probable to go after my kids for that issue? Well, thankfully I have experience. Trust me, the people with the LGBT flags and the Biden flags flying around, I'm not saying that I know for certain, but they're much less likely to go after my kids for the color of their skin than the other group. I'm just, take it or leave it alone.
I'll tell you what, if somebody, oh my word, I am not at all ready for something like that, because
and the dynamic is interesting because I've grown up with it, right? So when that situation happened with Dorian at the job, I was like, yeah, I mean, even yesterday you're like, how come you didn't let me go after those people, blah blah blah. And I'm like, look, man, that's the world he's going to inherit. Mommy's not going to be there to rescue him from white people at work.
But I was like, they're not going to know that, like he's not going to know that mommy went to rescue him. Like, nobody has to know, but, like, I have to know that I, as his mom, went in there and said something. Like, obviously this is what's happening. You don't give a 14-year-old a write-up that has 10 things listed on it that you never said anything. One of them being that he calls too much to find out his schedule.
You're calling too much to find out when to work.
When you're the one that doesn't have a written schedule up. It's obvious what
you gotta let it. You gotta let it go.
No, I haven't let it go.
That's obvious. What's interesting is look at verse 2. Up till the sun comes up, I can't start grinding. I can't let him break me. I can't let him fire me. I've talked about. You've heard me.
I know.
For years talk about that with the boys. Like when you go to that job, you are gonna outwork everybody. You have to outwork everybody and make yourself unfireable. Mm-hmm. Because the minute something needs to happen, you're gone. Mm-hmm. I'm saying that from experience. What's interesting is here's this guy. He said, I can't let him fire me. Then he says, you can meet my friend the governor if you want to try me. Or you can meet my friend the judge, just in case you think I'm lying. Those are guns, I'm sure.
I'm assuming so.
But that's a very, very real thing, man. Before I recently left my real world job. Actually, we're full-time YouTubers now.
Mm-hmm. Yay for us!
Hey, yay
for
us!
You guys. Thank
Shout
you
out to the patrons, like Sean. But yeah, I mean, we'd have those conversations, and you. The thing is, working from home, you were able to see it. You were able to see how few people of color were in the executive positions. You were able to see the people get passed up. You were able to see people not getting their raises when they should have, and other people of different melanin content
And I was
getting.
able to see how hard you worked.
Yeah. So
At 2 a.m., he's still sending emails like, work. And
Right.
then I'm like, honestly, it was that. Never mind.
it was what? Speaking color.
It was.
I'll put it in my ear away.
Well, I can be careful. You got a phone call after hours, and it was obviously looked like a very stressful phone call. And you were like, no, that's a regular run of the mill phone call. There was anything particular special about that one. And that's when I was like, because you don't wear everything on your sleeve, like, you know.
Yeah. But this is the thing that was hilarious to me about the. Yeah, I kind of said this in
But
code.
I don't think that had anything to do with the race. But
I kind of said this in code earlier. Here's the thing that gets me about certain segments of the American community. There are people who will hear what we just said. We're talking about actual experience that we actually had, things that you actually observed. Then we talked about history. 40 acres and a mule is a fact. And the fact that we didn't get it means that there's an untied shoelace still.
no, Roger, I know that that's not a racist thing. I'm just saying that's why I really wanted to leave his job. I said that after. It wasn't a racist thing.
Right. But so my point is, you can tell people historical fact and subjective experience. It doesn't matter.
I know.
All that they'll say, you're playing victim, blah, blah, blah. They'll say, oh, you're liberal tears, blah, 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 blah. But the minute somebody goes after them, you could see it in the comment section of the Tom McDonald video. So one of the things I was trying to demonstrate was these folks who so easily dismiss people's pain, and they're so cruel. Like, you know, you got Ben Shapiro, he's like, I've got my liberal tears. And these people love mocking people who are in pain because they're not in that circumstance. But then when you turn the barrel at them and you say, man, y'all are soft, y'all are fragile, it's the end of the fucking, oh, you're generalizing me, blah, 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 blah.
You're getting all upset because we're questioning your paradigm.
Somebody
but
says
we're
something
talking about stuff that actually happened
Correct.
with our kids.
Actual
like if somebody's
right,
questioning
right.
your thought processes and things that have happened in your life, that can be a little bit upsetting. But when stuff is legit happening to your children,
Right.
forget about it. I don't believe if you cry baby that much about stuff that people are saying that's just like messing with your thought process and how you
Correct.
think the world runs,
Correct.
you would never want to stand there and watch somebody go after your kids.
No
way.
Well, we know.
No way.
But the thing is, the issue, and I brought this up even in the Tom McDonald video where I talked to a white guy. We were complete opposite ends of the spectrum. I laid out the facts. I laid out the history. He didn't say I'm going to join the Black Panther Party tomorrow. He said, I didn't know that. So I'm going to have to look at it. You may have a point. Okay. That is what progress is. Progress is not him buying a dashiki and saying, Black Lives Matter. That's not what any of the folks I know are looking for. We're looking for is, man, you got to acknowledge that some inequities still exist.
Yeah.
You have to. And you have to understand this stuff. You got the Confederate flag is a flag of people who fought against the union of this country.
Yep.
They killed people. And if you say, well, slavery had nothing to do with it, I'm not saying you're lying, you're just ignorant. The Articles of Secession mention slavery over 100 times. It wasn't the only issue, but it was the dominant issue. That's a fact. Even Prager University will admit that about the Confederate flag. So why is it that we still have a Confederate flag around?
Right.
And why do we have these statues of General Lee and all these horrible people who killed other Americans to maintain the institution of slavery? And a lot of those statues were built not in the 1800s, but during the civil rights movement to put people in their place. So the point of that is you still have these racist icons And then you have a group of people who are saying, hey, we need to take down these racist icons. Mm-hmm. And then you have another group of people saying, no, because if you do that, you're trying to erase history, which is an absolute and total lie. Because the vast majority of us learned about the Civil War and never saw a statue of General Lee. We learned about the Civil War from books. That's how you learn history. Or museums. When you put a Michael Jordan statue outside of the United Center, you're not saying, well, we think you're going to forget who Michael Jordan is. That's not why you put a statue of Michael Jordan out in the United Center.
Right.
They're doing that because you're saying, this is a guy we want everybody who plays to play like.
Yep.
This is somebody you should aspire to. Mm-hmm. That's what a statue is outside when you put it out in the public square. So what does it say about a culture that says, yep, this guy was a horrible racist, raped slaves, killed Americans, real Americans, tried to destroy our country. Try to divide and destroy our country. And we want to keep this as a monument. That's still happening in 2021?
Because we're gonna forget our history if we don't.
Because we've never. Because I was talking to somebody in the Tom McDonald thing. I told the guy to call up. They never do. I don't think he will. And he kept saying, okay, I see the points of what you brought up, because I called in the Tom and I said, look, none of these people are going to react to any of the facts. I brought up Harvard, I brought up the FBI, I brought up the 20% declination thing that was actually published in a .gov website during the Trump administration that talked about disparities in sentencing between black males and white males with similarly situated crimes. There's a 20% variance in sentencing. So I bring up all these facts, right? And there's like 400 comments on the thing so far. And not a single one of them are dealing specifically with any of those. Mm-hmm. And this is one guy that said, okay, man, I see those things. But he just says, I just think looking in the rear view mirror isn't going to make us progress. The rear view mirror, the FBI report was in 2006. The .gov one was published 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. But this is like one of the fundamental differences in breakdowns in communication, because you've got there's a lot of white folks who hear this stuff or see this imagery and they say, yeah, but that was in the past. Mm-hmm. They truly, and honestly, in the information age, I don't understand how they could think this way, but they truly believe that all that stuff is in the past, and at some point there was some reset and now we don't have these issues anymore. Have we made progress? Yes. Have we made progress? Absolutely.
It's unbelievable.
We have made progress. Are we where we need to be? No.
Not at all.
When there's a difference between 78% of black people who kill white people end up getting the death penalty versus 15% of vice versa, we're not where we need to be yet. And all we're saying is, hey, we're not there yet. You still have a statue of a guy who raped slaves, and this is what happened with like the Farrakhan. I had a guy email me. He was in the chat earlier. I said, "Come on!" He won't come. He never will. People want me to repudiate Farrakhan. Mm-hmm. Has Farrakhan said racist things in the 40 years of his being the leader of the Nation of Islam? Of course. Mm-hmm. Farrakhan believes. I mean, I can't believe he believes it, but he says he does. So we just have to take him at his word. Farrakhan believes that white people were created on the island of Patmos by a big-headed scientist by the name of Yaqub through basically purposeful natural selection. He believes that there's a community of black gods that live in the center of the earth who came up over the surface, and that Yaqub was angry because everybody was making fun of his big head. Okay? Do I believe everything Brother Minister Farrakhan says? Hell no. However, I am not going to just completely dismiss him and repudiate him. Mm-hmm. I told the guy, I said, listen, I will repudiate Farrakhan when you sign a petition to blow up Mount Rushmore. Because you got George Washington up there who used the teeth of his slaves. And you got all these racist bastards up there being celebrated, including Abraham Lincoln, who said that he believes in the fundamental ontological superiority of the white race over the black.
Yep.
So I'm supposed to say, oh, fair, but we've got all these people on our money. But this is everywhere. This is what the issue is. Farrakhan is the only one that came out of that era who survived. And look at the recent released FBI documents, etc., as to who actually killed Malcolm X and Brother Martin. Martin, actually, you don't even need to do a FOIA because there's an actual documentary about it now because they did the FOIA and they did the documentary. So we can figure out who killed Malcolm X. We can figure out who killed Dr. King. And so, one, Farrakhan is the only one that made it out. Mm-hmm. Two, he's the only one that didn't sell out. Look at Jesse Jackson. Look at Al Sharpton over there on MSNBC. Cooning for Joe Biden. Refusing to call Joe Biden out on all his racist bullshit. So... Look, man. So, no, I understand that Farrakhan is problematic to a degree, but I'm never, ever, ever going to completely repudiate or throw Brother Minister Farrakhan away because that dude paid the price, and we still have an issue, and there still needs to be a voice that said, y'all are some wicked devils, because the rest of them have completely sold out, period. So that's the situation. Like, I think we could get so far, like, again, like, I don't need people to join the Black Panther Party. Mm-hmm. I don't need that. I don't even need you to say, look, what we need is to be able to listen to each other. And you've got a group of people that are saying this shit is still going on. It's 2021. Every single black person I know has multiple stories of what we just talked about. And then you hear white people who've never had the experience, right, channeling their reality through Ben Shapiro and then telling us, oh, you're playing video. One guy said oppression Olympics, blah, blah, blah. None of that addresses the real systemic issues that we're talking about. So then what happens is a guy was like, oh, okay, so forget about unity, blah, blah, blah. And I said, my brother, I will gladly jump on the unity train with you once the truth and justice train gets to where it needs to go. Right. Because the people who are benefiting from an obtuse system of injustice are telling the people who are fighting against it, black and white, by the way, and LGBT, by the way, and women, by the way, look, I'm going off and I don't care. Look, this whole straight white male thing where you got straight white males walking around as a victim to me is ridiculous. And there are people who've tapped. Donald Trump has successfully tapped into that ethic, that ethos, and so has Tom McDonald. Mm-hmm. And Trump did it he turned it into power, and McDonald's doing it and monetizing it. Yep. And I salute both of them. I really do. But the reason there is resentment to straight white males is because every other group in this country has been under your boot for hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. So now what's happening is all those people are getting together and saying, fuck you, and you can't handle it. Do I think it's right? No. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right, not because it's unjust in any universe. I think it's wrong because I'm a Christian. So just because one group of people did something bad does not mean we need to take vengeance out on everybody who did it. Mm-hmm. But at minimum, you have to listen. And when that's the thing. And when people are upset and ventilating their pain, you going, oh, liberal tears, blah, blah, blah. But then when somebody goes after you on a YouTube page, nothing's happening to your kids. You're not being followed by anybody. Just somebody said something about a YouTube page. There's all this weeping and gnashing of teeth. Man, I'm sorry, bro. Like, I have zero pity for you. Zero. Mm-hmm. Because, but again, I'm not talking about white people who are genuinely trying to understand. And I'm not even talking about white people who could sit down and have the conversation, go, don't agree with everything you say, but I'll look into it. That's what we're talking about. But this whole dismissive and then mockery of people and severe, and then, of course, when you saw these shootings happen with the cops, is play stupid games, win stupid prizes. All this mockery of people in pain. Elijah McClain gets choked out, basically killed by the police. And then the police officers go to the site of the crime and start choking each other and making a big joke out of it. So sick. Ugh. You had one group of people who lost an election and stormed the Capitol and was calling for blood because they lost an election. And I'm supposed to believe that those people would watch as their kids got choked out and murdered. And you hear what this kid is saying on the thing, like, go about it the legal way. He was puking, and he was apologizing to the people who were killing him. And then the compatriots of the people who killed him went to the spot that he died and mocked it. You trying to tell me that those people wouldn't have took up their guns and took care of some business? So look, man, I don't know how else to say it. This shit is real. And if you don't want to listen to facts, you don't want to listen to history, you don't want to listen to the experience of people, then what other conclusion can one come to? Now, on the other side, I understand the defensive posture of many of these folks because they're not used to people going after them. So they don't know how to handle adversity. So again, it's this conversation I have with God where it's like, God's like, why are you doing this to these folks? You were born and raised in this shit. You know that they're not. Be gentle with some of them. And sometimes I'm like, you know what? You're right. Let me say something conciliatory. And other times I'm like, man, fuck those people, man. Like you'll have to forgive them. But there is a perception by a lot of these folks, and unfortunately, it's because of right-wing media. To be honest with you, that to admit that there's still racial inequalities means you personally did something wrong. Mm-hmm. You personally are bad. That's not what that means. I can still say that that America has some misogynistic impulses when I go to a store and I see women's bodies on sale, and I'm completely normalized to it. We're just normalized to seeing women's bodies trotted out to sell everything from beer to toothpaste. That's a massively misogynistic society to live in. And so I understand there are men's magazines too, blah, blah, blah. But those are for specific things like men's health. The guy's shirt's going to be off because it's saying, don't you want your body to look like that guy? That makes sense. If the only time you saw a naked woman's body was to sell bikinis, great. That's not what's happening. Mm-hmm. It's for beer, it's for cars, it's for everything. The female body and female sexuality has been monetized and mass-produced to give to everybody to consume because our society is dominated by males. It doesn't mean that I'm a horrible misogynist because I concede that. It's true. Earlier, somebody asked us about LGBT rights, and I said, we, Christians, have blood on our hands because of the way we treat these people, particularly LGBT kids. I said, we. I'm a Christian. You know what's funny to me? People are always these generalizations. Nobody has a problem with generalizations when I say that Christians killed people in the crusade. That's a general statement. Mm-hmm. When I say that Christians have been horrible to LGBT people and we are responsible, nobody goes, whoa, 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 you're generalizing Christians. Or when I say black people are the silliest, most easily manipulated voting bloc in America, nobody says all these generalizations you're saying about black people.
Right.
Nobody cares. I am not saying that you specifically are a horrible, terrible, nasty, disgusting, irredeemable racist if you concede that we still have a ways to go. All you have to do is say, we still have a ways to go. We're not there yet. But to pretend like we're there. This song came out in 2019. This guy's just making shit up. Maybe we should stop and listen to what he has to say. J. Cole has the same thing. The same song. Like, everybody knows this in our community. Yeah. And it's not because we saw something on TV. People go, oh, this narrative. We're living it. It's not a narrative if it's being lived. People go, oh, these are left-wing talking points. You know, it turns out that if a leftist says 2 + 2 = 4, it equals 4. Just because something is a talking point doesn't mean it's wrong.
Right. Right.
Now, look, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton are both guys who I would agree with. On my right-leaning friends would say these guys are race hucksters. Mm-hmm. They monetize the angst of the black community to position themselves. Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson was the guy I talked about in that song. I agree with you. I agree, and that's why I love Brother Minister Farrakhan. And God forgive him for some of his more strange ideas. But, you know, holy moly, man. And obviously, as a post-millennialist, I do think we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure out how to give justice to LGBT people. We still have a ways to go. Have we made progress for LGBT people since the Stonewall riots? Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have. Are we completely there yet? No. Your LGBT friend can be evicted tomorrow just because he's LGBT.
That's crazy. I can't believe that's
Be terminated from their job just because they're LGBT. They can be denied an interview just because they're LGBT. I know for a fact we still have a ways to go. And there's some things that you cannot legislate that the church needs to self-correct, and for God's sake, not have the state come in and tell us how to be Christ-like to these people. So we still have a go. Women, we still have a ways to go. Do I believe in the wage gap? Yes, I do. Actually, did a debate with Dorian Beluga on it, and I need to release that. We still have a ways to go. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Right. I'm not a horrible misogynist for saying we have a ways to go. I'm not a horrible homophobe for saying we have a ways to go. And you, if you're white, if you say, okay, there's iniquities in sentencing, there's iniquities in who gets a death penalty. Holy shit, this redlining thing really fucked them up for a couple generations. Holy shit, you got white supremacists in the sheriff's department arresting black and Latino people. That was 2006. Shit, there's shit that still needs cleaning up. That's all you have to say. Mm-hmm. It's it. But all this pretentious bullshit about how all you guys are alpha males and you drink liberal tears and you mock people in their pain, but then somebody says something mean to you about YouTube and you become unraveled, man. Like, we're not making the progress that we need to make.
That's obvious.
But holy shit, man, that song is tough, bro. Mm-hmm. It's tough, man, because I have a very hard time when you interface with it, because I was raised in it. I had a mom that prepared me for it, and all my brothers were all raised in it. So when my brother was a cop at a certain base that I'm not going to mention, they told him to go after black people, and it's like they didn't even realize he was black, because it's understood that if you cross that line, you're one of them now. Mm-hmm. And I've had those experiences as well, where people think that you're just some accessible Negro, so they think that you're like them, and then they start trashing your people. I've had conversations with white people where they said, "Yeah, I mean, there's niggers, and then there's people like you, Vin," and like they really thought they were being this. I'm talking about people you know.
I know.
Like, this happened in the 2000s. Like, this shit is still real. Holy shit. I'll tell you what, man. If I wasn't a Christian, man, that the only thing that gives me hope for humanity. I'm specifically talking about my inability to not always be the bigger person. So when you're black in America, you have to make a practice of being the bigger person. Mm-hmm. So after the George Floyd situation, I said, fuck this shit. Like, after the George Floyd situation, I saw people kneeling and mocking George Floyd. I'm like, I'm not going to be the bigger person. Somebody comes and says some ignorant shit, I'm going to fucking light them up, period. So I had a couple firesides where I just, like, lit people up. You know how I am with facts and all that shit. People know they can't, whatever. And, like, I had to do some real, like, soul searching at the end of last year, and I was like, man, that's not. And I didn't care about, like, people's feelings, because I still don't. But, like, it's like, God's like, look, man, you got a public forum, you got 65 million views. Like, if you can't find some way to dig deep and be Christ-like, then don't say anything about it. And it's a real. The problem that I have is, like, sometimes I feel like, okay, I'm back to the center, and then you see something, and because you're not used to it, but now that you have eyes to see it, it's and I'm watching you kind of be traumatized about the situation, because you're seeing this, and then there's people that you love, and you can't do anything, and it's hard for me to watch you in that. Like, sometimes you're like, did you ever wish that you were the black girl, blah blah blah, and I never do. But that's the only time when I'm like, damn, if you were like me, then you'd know about this from the beginning, and it wouldn't be something that you'd have to continuously have to deal with. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But holy shit, man. And I think that, at the end of the day, like, I've got I've got, we got people in the village, right, that are still, far right Trump supporters, whatever, that we love and love us and all the rest of it, and we've been able to find common ground, and we've been able to, get to where we need to get to together, but. This whole thing, I was talking about this about Trump and Cuomo. This whole thing about the whole, like, I'm going to say the most offensive thing possible, and if it hurts you, then you were triggered, and suck it up and be a tough guy. Like, I hope, like, after the Trump era, man, we can put all that shit to rest. Because most of y'all are not like that. Most of y'all. So, I hope we can. I'm talking about, when I say we, I'm talking about all of us. I hope we can. That's one thing I'll say about Obama. He's my least favorite president, but the one thing I'll say about Obama is, like, there was a certain degree of class he and Michelle brought to the conversation. Yeah, they really, really did. Obama is a war criminal and a terrible individual who did less for black people in 8 than Donald Trump did in 4. Okay? But as far as how he had the awareness that his presentation was going to not dictate, but influence majorly the national conversation, and because of that, he took it seriously, and I appreciate him for that. And I just hope we can get back to actually sitting down and listening to each other. Listening does not mean complete and total agreement. It just means listening. That's all it means. And it's one of the lessons I've learned on the channel. I talked about BM Fan and how he patiently talked to me about Marx and the far right stuff and where Jordan Peterson was wrong and things like that. And it took him years to get to me, to where I finally said, I need to read this Marx shit. What's going on? So, there you go. Holy shit. What do you give the song?
I have to give this an asylum count because it was heavy. It was hard. Yeah. Silent count is usually, we don't want to, it'll almost like spurn the sanctity of the moment. I'm going to give it an 11 just because I think it's required listening. When we give a song an 11, it means it's required listening. Like, you must, like, you cannot know the story of the time period unless you hear that song. So it's that level of a song, and I think it's important because if you look at the date, you say, holy shit, it's 2019. This shit is still happening to the point where it's provoking that kind of art and that type of angst. But for the record, Vincent does not believe white people are the devil. I don't believe that Orion and Reza are half devils. Actually, scripturally speaking, 1 Corinthians 7, I would clean them anyway, because I'm in the covenant. Otherwise, their children would be unclean, but as it is, they are clean, because God has made them so. So, she's not a devil. I don't believe all white people are the devil. I don't believe there's something particularly wrong with white people. I just believe that we're all in the image of God, we're all sinners, and God loves us all. And because God loves us all, we need to value everyone as much as we value ourselves, and we should want for each other, and we should want for our children for other people's children what we want for our children. And if there's people in pain, we need to sit and listen to people in pain. And sometimes people who are in pain for their own, because of their own silliness, and sometimes people are in pain because they're hurt. And so that's what I would say. Don't come after my babies either.
You'll get the judge or the governor